Welcome to another lesson. Today we'll be discussing the different types of corset shapes, closures, and examples of corset dresses. So I wanted to go over this before we actually start, so anything that I mention, it's very clear and understandable to you. So there are different types of corsets, and I'll be talking about the tools and materials that we're going to be able to work with later on in the next lesson. But right now we're just working with the shapes and just to give you an idea of the things that you can make with this lesson. So starting from here, I have what is called closures, and what closures means is that how you are going to be able to wear your corset. Now you cannot make a corset that cannot be worn. So because most of the time the hip is bigger than the bust, and if you're making the dress, you need to be able to wear it from the lower part upwards. It's more comfortable that way. For a lot of people, you need to have closures, so you can use a zipper, you can use boning, lacing, or whatnot. Again, I will demonstrate what all these are useful for. So starting from here, we have loops. So a loop lacing is the type whereby you actually sew singular loops to the edge of your corset, and then you will just lace it with a rope or something and you tie it at the end. So the tighter you make your lacing and your rope, the more snatched results you're going to get. So that's the first one. This one is a bra fastener. So this is the type that is sold per yard. I'm going to show you an example of the one that has already been cut in the tools video, and this is something that you can use for your corset. So this is usually used for underbust corset. Again, I would explain what all those ones mean soon. Now this is very common with bridal dresses. It's very similar to this loop lacing, but it usually doesn't have a tie. The tie is tucked inwards inside the dress so that it has like this very smooth effect. You can also decide to tie it, but it's preferable not to tie it, or you can tie it at the top. So you lace it from the lower part, or you tie it at the middle. Again, it's up to you. You can lace from here and then lace from here and tie it at the middle. So that's a loop lacing. So this is a corset busk, and again, I'm going to show you what this looks like in actual, like what it looks like, not on paper. And this is grommets. And the difference between this and this is that this one, as you can notice, this is sewn. There's a line here which represents the end of the corset, and then these loops are sort of sewn to it. They are fabrics. While this one is a metal piece called grommet, and it's usually after the line. So this is the line that is here, but this one is inwards on the actual fabric. So this is sewn at the edge, and this one is attached on top of the corset, and to give it that effect. So it's not compulsory that it's open like this. I'm sure you can see this one is just like a decorative design. You can decide to use it as a decorative effect on your outfit. So this is also grommet, and this is a regular zipper. So this can be used for your corset as well. Now I'm going to move on to the different types of shapes before I show you examples in some of my sketches and in some of my dresses as well. So this is underbust corset shapes, and what that means is that the corset is starting at the underbust. So whenever you hear things like underbust, overbust, underbust just means it's under the bust, overbust means it's over the bust. Very simple. So these are some of the shapes that we have. We have one that goes this way. We have one that sort of follows the shape of the breasts. We have one that is straight across like this. And if you look at the hem, you will notice that there are also different shapes. So be creative. It can be asymmetric, meaning one side is different from the other side. It can be the same all through. It can be curved. It can be like this. So this works well. So some of the closures that you can use for this, you can use the loop, which is this. You can use hook and eye, which is what is called a bra fastener. You can use the grommet lacing, which is this and this. You can use your corset busk, which is this, and you can use your zipper, which is this. So here we have grommet in the front, and this is just like a decorative effect. So here we can see that this is laced, and here you can see the grommets. So this can also represent the front. So it's for the grommets, usually for the corset bust, it is usually in front, and there's another closure at the back. So for this, you're working with 2 closures. You have this, or you can just use a zipper in the front and then lace it at the back. So we have different underbust corset shapes here, and I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So this shape here, I'm sure you can see the way it's following the bust shape. So it's very similar to this one that I have here. Even the lines very similar to this, and this is in form of a dress. So this technique can be used to make dresses. So you can have your underbust infused into your dress, or you can place it over a dress. So you have 2 separate pieces, your dress and your underbust corset. It can also be placed on a couple of other things. You can wear it on a jumpsuit, you can attach it to your jumpsuit. These are dresses, but you can attach it to a jumpsuit. You can wear it under a blazer. You can style it whichever way you want. So this is another shape, and this, now if you notice where this stops just a little bit above the hip. So this is like the low hip, which is the abdomen area. I usually try to make it lower to hold the abdomen in for people that have big tummy. Now this one stops at the waist. As you can see, the shape that we have here very similar to this shape, and it's also a very nice design. Now all these lines that you can see here are boning channels. Again, I would explain what boning is. So boning is very, very important in corset making, as that's what makes your corset stand out. Unless you're making a full corset, which means a corset that looks like a corset but does not perform the function of a corset, which is to tighten the waist and create like a proper hourglass figure. So this is another, now this is on a fitted dress. Now this is like a ball gown. So you can use your underbust corsets to make a couple of designs based on your preference. So here we have the Victorian corset shape. Now Victorian corsets can also be called overbust corsets. Now I call it Victorian because it goes as far back as the Victorian era. This particular type of corset was very common. Right now it's in vogue. So you should know that. You should know the reason why it's called Victorian corset. So these are various shapes. I'm sure you can see this one is the shape of this. Again, remember I said these lines represent your boning channels. So these are, you can see these are not straight. These are sort of angling towards the center front, while this one is straight in the middle and then it curves to follow the shape of the body. So you can see this one is straight and then slanted. You can see this one is straight all through. This one is straight, slightly slanted, and this one has a couple of variations on it. So it's based on your preference. Now for this one, you can make it strapless. You can add strap. You can add yokes to it as well. I didn't draw one that has a yoke on it, and I'll show you later on, but you can be very creative. Also, the hems are different. You can add lacing in the front or at the back. The shape of this, of the upper part, varies. I'm sure you can see the shape that we're having here. You can experiment with it. Also, the closures are what I've talked about here as well. Now these are some dress styles. So these are ways that you can infuse your overbust corset, which is your Victorian corset, to your dress. Now you can decide to make this Victorian corset separate from your dress and wear it over it, or you can, like for example this one, I can decide to make a Victorian corset and just make a skirt and then I wear them together, or you can make it into a blouse, you can make it to a dress, a jumpsuit, anything whatsoever. Be as creative as you want. So you can see this one stops at the waist, this one angles down towards the hip, and this one, you know, stops at the low hip, so it doesn't get all the way to the hip. So the reason for that is because you want to be able to sit down comfortably in the front, and I'll demonstrate it when we are taking the measurement for corset. So again, the closures similar to what we have here. So the next one is the cup corset, and what that means is that it just has cups. So it has the cup shape cut out of your corset. Now for the Victorian corset, you can have your cup inside the corset, but it's not visible to the like this one. So these are shapes that you can get. So these are some shapes that you can get. You can make this into a crop top. Now remember what I said about asymmetry. this is what asymmetry means. Now note that what for this type is not going to be able to cinch and hold your fat in, because it's going to be very tight along the sides where the corset are. So this would be preferable in a dress, not as a separate piece. Okay, so we have different bra cup shapes. I'm sure you can see this one is just one line. This one has two lines and it's vertical. This is horizontal. This has both a vertical and horizontal 3, and this has straps. So I'm going to also explain what this means. Again, the direction of the bowling channels is up to you. This has a busk in the front, so this would make for a very nice blouse over like a pair of trousers or something. So the closures are the same as I've talked about here. Now that I've gone over all the shapes and the closures, now I'm just going to show you some examples of outfits that you can use this for. So here I have a wedding dress, and I've sort of written out things that I need for the dress, but that's not a lesson for today. And I'm sure you can see how I infuse the cups into the design. So the upper part can be anything you want, and you just infuse your cups. So this has the bowling channels. It's very faint, you can barely see it, but it is there. So here I have another corset shape, and you can see that this one is just a corset, and this is like a separate beaded fabric, and then it has the drape and whatnot. So again, experiment with this as you will. Okay, so this is these are also corset shapes, and this is like the general corset shapes. So we have the overbust, which is Victorian, overbust, Victorian, underbust. We have the cup corsets with cups, underbust as well with cups. Now this is corset with yoke, which I said I wanted to explain. So this is corset with sleeve, and you have this type of corset with strap. So you can see that you can experiment and have various designs from your corset. So I'm going to show you some designs in this book here. So this book is very old. So here I have an overbust corset, and it has net at the upper part. So the reason it's not really obvious because it's going to be a nude skin net. So it has net, so meaning this has yoke on it. So this is also another type of corset. Okay, so this is also another type of corset. This is a blouse and a skirt with straps and the cape. So again, you can experiment with whatever you want. So you have the cups here as well. So here I have the corset, and you can see that this is asymmetry. Remember I said you also have to combine this with a dress. So this has yoke at the upper part, and you can experiment with it. So I'm just going to check for more designs that have corsets. So this is another one, and I'm actually going to show you the actual dress that this that I made using this sketch. And this has cups, and it just you can barely see it because of the draping that is over it, but there are cups there. Okay, so this is another type. Now this one is different from all the others because it has some sort of design on this. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do this as well, so that you can see how that technique works. So this is also another type of corset. I'm sure you can see this is a blouse and a trouser. You can make it into a jumpsuit if you want, and you can see the boning channel. So whenever you see a boning channel, you would know. Now what you need to note is that there are some outfits that have inbuilt corset. So what that means is that the corset is inside the dress and you can barely see it outside. So this is another corset dress. Now you can see this has yoke and sleeves, and you can see the channels of your corset. This is another corset. So I can go on and show you many shapes, but basically when you see a corset now, you should know what it looks like. This is another corset. You can see I did a different shape for the cup. So this is another cup, and I'm actually going to share the image of what this looks like. And yes, this is how it looks. So this is another type of corset that you can work with. So I'm sure that after all these pictures and every explanation, you have a very good idea of designs you can work with. So you can use it for anything whatsoever. Just widen your imagination and start to research and notice corset shapes. So I need you to go online on the internet and go to other platforms. You can check YouTube, you can check Pinterest, which is very important. You can check Instagram and any other place where pictures are mostly shared, and search for corset shapes, corset dresses, underbust corsets, and start to save them, as it will be easier for you to practice with things that you already have around you. So I would see you in the next lesson.